Is the president okay with this bill adding to the deficit?
This bill does not add to the deficit.
Of course, in the middle of all of this, Moody's downgrades the credit rating on the U.S., talking about higher deficits. What do you want to say about the X date when the government runs out of money, and about some in the GOP House who are complaining about raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion in this bill?
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
Okay, I guess better late than never, right? Wrong. It's always too late for a network that radicalized our parents in a way that they said video games would do to us, and are airing opinions like this in the wake of Biden's tragic cancer diagnosis.
Well, stage 4 cancer diagnosis, particularly the kind that they're referencing, is a brutal diagnosis. I mean, I feel terrible for anyone that would go through that, even somebody who I really don't like much as Joe Biden, but it's a terrible thing for him and his family. So I hope he beats it. But look, I don't believe that they just found out Friday, but because they're not credible on anything they've done. And you highlighted it's kind of concurrent with this release of the Hur tapes, which frankly Congress subpoenaed, and Merrick Garland as Attorney General was in contempt of Congress. He had no problem holding everybody else accountable for contempt of Congress, but he wouldn't even comply with the subpoena. So, the whole thing was a big cover up, and I suspect that this cancer diagnosis is part of that whole scheme.
But the thing is, when people like this are admitting to the fact that Trump tanked the economy to the point that the country's credit was downgraded, you know it's bad.
I want to get the president's reaction to Moody's downgrading the credit rating of the United States.
Sure. Well, look, the president talked about this over the weekend. The Secretary of Treasury also talked about it. When you look at the world has confidence in the United States of America and our economy once again. The president just last week secured trillions of dollars in investments from countries in the Middle East. We have seen trillions of dollars of investments flowing into our economy since the president took office. That is because America or people around the world have confidence in the United States of America. And if you also just look at the raw economic data that we're seeing, last week when we were out of town, inflation dropped once again. Oil prices are dropping, gas prices are dropping. The president has added nearly 500,000 jobs to the American economy already. So there's a lot of optimism in this economy, and the president disagrees with that assessment.
Jessica, masterclass, it's not really in dispute. So my question to you is, how big of a masterclass was this?
Not in dispute at all. Approval rating bump, that's real life. I live and die by the polls, but that is directly related to him cleaning up his own tariffs mess. So that's moving from the 145% tariff on China to just 30%, where, you saw the CEO from Walmart, I presume, saying that the prices are going to go up. So we'll wait for that. And while we were in the commercial break, Moody's downgraded our credit for the first time in the agency's history. So all good news all around, masterclass.
It's never more evident that the Trump administration's tails are up when they send out chief propagandist Caroline Leavitt to lie her way through a press conference, especially on the deficit. Because in the wake of the news that Moody downgraded the country's credit score on the back of Walmart saying they are set to increase prices because of Trump's handling of the economy, then it's clear they're in damage control territory.
President Trump has brought back trillions of investments in the United States. Every stop we made, the enthusiasm in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in the United Arab Emirates to invest in the United States, that they want to push more and more their funds here. And if we go back to your initial question on the Moody's downgrades, who cares?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Last week, Walmart became the latest high-profile national retailer to announce that Donald Trump's trade tariffs were poised to push consumer prices higher, which was addressed on Fox News of all places. Now, as the Washington Post reported, the president did not take the news very well, admonishing Walmart for warning that his tariffs could force a price increase, urging the world's biggest retailer to simply absorb the consequences of his own trade war. Eat the tariffs, I guess, is the new they're eating the cats and dogs.
All of this comes after Trump warned Walmart to eat the tariffs, as he put it. That sounds to me like price controls, isn't it?
It is. And the key word that the Secretary of the Treasury put out there was some. of the tariffs will be they'll absorb, i.e., they're going to have to pass them on, as any business would. They got mad at Amazon for saying they'd put on your bill what the tariff component is. Tariff is a sales tax, and that's why the quicker they get this thing out of the way, the better, because it is weighing on decisions, weighing on prices, and by golly, when Christmas comes around and you can't get the doll, that may not be much concern in Washington, but it is concern to people seeing that empty Christmas tree.
Of course, in the middle of all of this, Moody's downgrades the credit rating on the U.S., talking about higher deficits. What do you want to say about the X date when the government runs out of money, and about some in the GOP House who are complaining about raising the debt ceiling by $5 trillion in this bill?
I think that the debt ceiling is going to go up with the big, beautiful bill. It always goes up. It's going to go up. And so people should just be done with it and raise the debt ceiling to reduce that risk. But make no mistake, the U.S. debt is the safest the safest bet on earth. There's no country's debt that I'd rather have than the United States. And so, Moody's can do what it wants to. As Secretary Bessent said, it's a backward-looking thing, penalizing us for all the reckless spending of the Biden administration. But we're cutting spending, we're deregulating, we've got supply-side growth. And so we've got every reason in the world to believe that we're going to have the best economy on earth. If you have the best economy on earth, you're going to have the best debt on earth, too.
Now, here's the thing. He's telling on himself here by doing this, considering he has repeatedly pushed a simple claim: foreign countries pay for the tariffs, right? Well, now, to anyone who understands economics, that's never made any sense whatsoever, hence why even talking heads on Fox couldn't quite stomach the snake oil. But Trump clung to the assertion. However, this rant directed at Walmart contradicts that very claim. He now realizes all of a sudden that his tariffs are actually responsible for pushing Walmart's costs higher, and the retailer now intends to push its prices higher as a result, meaning who will eat the costs? The consumer, not the foreign countries that Trump claimed time and time again would be paying for the tariffs.
President Trump and his top economic aides have repeatedly said that Americans will not pay the cost of tariffs. In fact, last week, Lutnick said people have to drop the, quote, silly arguments that consumers would pay the cost. But over the weekend, as you know, the president posted that Walmart should eat the tariffs and not charge the value customer anything. I'll be watching, and so will your customers. So does he acknowledge that if companies don't absorb the full cost, Americans will have to pay?
Well, first of all, the CEO of Walmart made those comments about the tariffs on an earnings call where CEOs, I believe, are legally obligated to give the most dire warnings and forecasts to their investors and stakeholders. The reality is, as the president has always maintained, Chinese producers will be absorbing the cost of these tariffs. And that is why China was so quick to hustle to the negotiating table with the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumers. And I would again point you to the inflation report that came out last week showing that inflation is declining in large part because energy prices are dropping across the board in this country because of the president's robust energy agenda that he has taken since January 20th. So the president is committed to ensuring that prices remain low for American consumers, and he maintains the position that foreign countries will absorb these tariffs.
Why should Walmart eat any cost, Mr. President, when you said that foreign countries would pay for it? There you go. I wrote it for you. Just like you said Mexico would. But instead, with this administration, you get people like this invited into the room.
So over the weekend, President Trump posted Truth Social a video highlighting what most people call the Clinton body count, which is the strange number of suicides that seem to happen in Clinton circles. I have a headline here from the Washington Post that said, Trump peddles false conspiracy theories tying the Clintons to several deaths. So I just wanted to highlight real quick, this wasn't in Trump's video, but this is from the Arkansas Times. And it's the death of Mark Middleton, who was a former Clinton White House aide, who was found dead on a Clinton Foundation property. And I'll just quote from the Arkansas Times. Middleton apparently shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and also hung himself from a tree with an extension cord. So I have no idea how somebody commits suicide that way, but if the Washington Post is here, maybe you can enlighten us as to how that was actually a suicide. So anyways, that's just a lead into my question about the most famous Clinton-related suicide, which is that of Jeffrey Epstein. There's still a lot of questions around that case. You've released phase 1 of the Epstein files. What was missing from that is any connection to his ties to intelligence agencies, and that's really the whole story, that not just trafficking young girls, but doing it on behalf of intelligence agencies and even potentially as part of a blackmail ring with potential ties to the Israeli government. So for phase 2, when can we expect it? Will it have information pertaining to those aspects of the Epstein case?
I know the Attorney General has committed to releasing those files. I would defer you to the Department of Justice on her timeline, but when she has made a promise in the past, she has kept it, and I'm certain that she will in this case as well.
But if Fox's coverage on the matter is anything to go by, it's clear there's a shift. The American people know the game is up.
Love this video? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch and help us blow past 1 million followers.